I love baklava. It is one of the most indulgent desserts to me, and I'm finally excited to share this because it's a little different. It's baklava with a little summer twist. Instead of your standard honey sugar syrup, I made a cherry juice reduction and even added a little bit of dried cherries to dessert to give it a little pop. It's sweet, crispy, tart, and really surprising. Also, I got a little left over of this cherry juice that I like to add to my sparkling water. I'm not gonna lie to you, I feel like $1,000,000 drinking this. God damn. Did you know cherries are a rich source of deliciousness? Look, I'm not gonna saddle you with reasons to eat fruit and enjoy cherries this summer, but cherry baklava is one way. Let's get to it. Start with 3 cups of cherry juice into a pot, about 660 milliliters, give or take. It doesn't have to be perfect, it's all going to be reduced. Pop it onto the stove on medium to medium high and put a half or a full stick of cinnamon and a few cracked cardamom pods. I even included a couple of cloves. Now you can use whatever warming spices you like allspice or star anise, but know that those are very powerful, so just proceed with caution. You don't want to overwhelm the reduction. We're going to reduce it down from 3 cups to 3/4 of a cup. Keep an eye on it and let it start to boil and stir it occasionally to prevent it from burning. This can take anywhere between 20 and 40 minutes, depending on how hot your stove is going. Set a timer to check in 20 minutes, and now you can preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Now the fun part. I'm chopping up 3 kinds of nuts. Feel free to use all or just 1 or 2. I'm starting with walnuts, which is traditional in baklava, then pecans, and finally pistachios. You can use a knife, or if you want to, I'm taking 2 larger butcher-style knives and doing my best impression of a teppanyaki chef. I know you might be asking if you can use a food processor, but I would advise against it. The goal is to get the nuts into a small crumble or finely chopped. Don't worry if there are some larger pieces here and there. The food processor can pulverize them into a powder. If you go too long, it can also make it into a pasty, nutty mess. I guess if you were very careful and pulsed it a couple of times to get you started, it wouldn't hurt, but look how much fun you can have with all this chopping madness. Drop all the nuts into one bowl and add about 40 to 80 grams of powdered sugar, depending on how sweet you want it. Add a pinch or 3 of cinnamon and fresh cardamom if you have it. Mix it up with a whisk, or you can use your hands if you want. I only added 40 grams since honey and dried cherries are fairly sweet, but the sugar helps round it out. Then I'm chopping up some dried cherries, and I think I see some dried cranberries in there. I'm only using a handful, about 75 grams. I put them in a separate bowl because I want to control the distribution. They are sticky, and you don't want them to clump up in the baklava. Okay, so we can check in on the cherry juice reduction. And just know that you can do the reduction first and then work on the baklava, but to be honest, I'm working against the clock sometimes. I have to film and bake this and get my kids from camp. So hit that like and subscribe if you can. Your kindness and support is almost as sweet as this baklava. Okay, cheesy baklava sayings aside, check on the cherry reduction, and once it's reduced by more than 1/3 of the original, add about 250 grams of honey or 3/4 of a cup. Mix that up and bring it back to a boil. Once it's boiling, cut the heat, and I'm putting it into a large measuring cup to cool down faster than if it were to just sit in the warm pot. Now let's prep the pan. Take your 9x13 pan and feel free to line it with parchment paper if you want. I'm going commando on the pan, and I'm brushing the bottoms and sides generously with olive oil to prevent the phyllo and ultimately the baklava from sticking. You can use any neutral oil if you like, and yes, you can use melted butter. Now let's play with the phyllo. Don't be scared. Phyllo is delicate, it tears. Yes, you can dry it out quickly, but just keep it covered with a damp towel and work fast. And if you mess up a layer, keep going. I did, and in the end, it came out great. I'm layering 4 to 5 pieces of phyllo on the bottom to create a solid base and tucking in the excess phyllo onto the sides. Then oiling up each and every layer. Just the light brushing of oil. Once the base layer is ready, I'll scoop out about 1/3 of the nut mixture and sprinkle it across the pan evenly. Don't fret if some nuts are bigger than others, it just adds texture. And I'm carefully sprinkling some dried cherries. You don't want to overdo it on the cherries, the nuts are the stars and you want more crunch than chewiness. The second layer is like the first, but just use 3 or 4 sheets, brushing each one with oil, and then another layer of nuts, using about half of what is left. Then sprinkle on a few more cherries and then add another layer of 3 or 4 phyllo sheets, again oiling each time, nuts and then cherries. Then top it off with another 4 to 6 sheets on top. If you only got a couple of phyllo sheets left, just use it up. So that might mean you might get 8 sheets on top. It doesn't really matter. It bakes and crisps up really nicely. Just tuck the overhang onto the pan as best possible and oil it up. Now to cut it. I got too excited to cut the diagonal on the fresh batch, but start with 5 or 6 cuts across the top and then go down. Then do the diagonal one from the top left to the bottom right as best possible. I'm using a serrated knife, but a really sharp chef's knife is also good. Just carefully hold down the phyllo as you cut through it if you need to. You should be left with mostly trapezoidal shapes. As a final note, I know it's usually best to bake in a light colored pan, so I'm lining the bottom of my dark pan with foil so the bottom doesn't burn or get too hot. Something to consider. Pop that into the oven at 350 degrees for 50 to 60 minutes. This would also be an appropriate time to make the cherry reduction. I just like to start with the syrup so it has ample time to cool down. Now once the baklava is ready, I pulled mine out at 50 minutes. You can pour the syrup over the top slowly. You don't want to go too quickly or it can become soggy, and just let it dribble down through the cracks slowly. You don't have to pour it down the cut parts. And I used a brush to distribute some of the syrup, but you should let it cool down completely, which can take up to 3 hours to soak and set. What you are left with is a red speckled cherry baklava that is such a bright, beautiful, crunchy, sticky, tangy, tarty, nutty, and absolutely delicious. I'll see you in the next one.